so many of us out here right now that don't feel heard.
Do you or someone you know feel ignored or dismissed by your doctor? You are not alone. Being ignored by your healthcare professionals is one of the most common complaints heard by patient advocates, healthcare reporters, and social media. But why? The problem is greater than the individual doctor. The Western healthcare system is based on the biomedical model. The biomedical model is a conceptual framework that views health and illness as solely the result of biological factors. The model takes a doctor-centered approach in which curing disease is exclusively a task for medical professionals and medical technology, while the patient is only the receiver of such cures. The patient submits to the authority of the expert and has no autonomy or agency. The patient is not a subject of concern. They are merely an object of illness in which the focus is on the physical pathology. Under this model, there is no reason for the doctor to treat a patient well and take their feelings into account, or take the time to get to know them or learn their full history. If every illness can be traced to a single underlying biological cause, identifiable with objective testing, then from the perspective, it really does not matter who you are or how they treat you. The cold, dismissive nature of many Western biomedicine doctors is the function of the biomedical model rather than to diagnose the problem and treat it. Dehumanization is standard practice in biomedicine, and when doctors fail to identify a biomedical cause, it is not the model that is to blame, it is the patient. Medical training and culture as well play a role. Diagnostic training, the medical education traditionally places a significant emphasis on diagnosing and treating disease based on objective science and test results. This may lead to the tendency to prioritize measurable data over subjective patient experiences. Hierarchy and authority. The hierarchical nature of the medical training and practice may contribute to a culture where doctors are perceived as authority figures and patients may feel hesitant to question or assertively communicate their symptoms. In the beginning, I showed a clip from Lara. Lara suffers from an undiagnosed chronic illness that began in 2008. She was failed again and again by the healthcare system and left to suffer. She refused to let this be her story, so she did what doctors couldn't and took matters into her own hands. Now I'd like to show you some more of Lara's story.
I went to my doctor and we ran just a panel of blood work and everything came back okay. And so just said, wait it out, let's see if it's just something that'll pass. So I did. It did not improve. And it really, I tried to look for a pattern, to try to understand what was going on. Couldn't put much together. So I ended up going back. Again, we ran some more blood work and that came back okay. So he kind of just seemed baffled. And so at that point, I would feel a little bit better. And then, so I wouldn't worry about going back. And then it would just come out of nowhere. So I got to the point where it started getting so bad that I would end up going into the ER to get checked out because I didn't know what was wrong. And I kind of had felt hopeless because my doctor couldn't figure anything out and he wasn't really referring me out too much to a specialist. So I would go into the ER. Of course, they do all the standard testing. Everything seemed to be okay. And then they would tell me, yeah, like, we don't know what's going on. You need to see a specialist. Well, finally, one of them did say, let's, try GI. So I went to the GI and he kind of seemed baffled too. And he said, like, we can do some more in-depth tests, but I don't really think this is what it is. So I would kind of manage my symptoms the best I could. But when they got really bad, of course, I would get scared. So I would go into the ER and I never got a diagnosis. So at the point of just literally financially being exhausted and mentally being exhausted with this, I decided to start doing my own research to see if I could figure out what was going on because I just felt like the medical system had started to let me down and I didn't want to live this way. And I also had kids to take care of. So it really wasn't a choice to quit.
Despite all of Laura's efforts, she is still in search of answers, and Laura is not alone. A hashtag began trending on X, formerly known as Twitter. Patients are not faking. In reaction to a video by a nurse making fun of a patient, played by the nurse, exaggerating her symptoms, over 77,000 patients tweeted delayed diagnosis stories in just the first week. An estimated 371,000 people die every year following the misdiagnosis, and 424,000 are permanently disabled, a total of 800,000 people suffering serious harm, said David Newman Tucker, the lead author of the paper and professor of neurology at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and director of its Center for Diagnostic Excellence. Settling on an exact number is hard because many cases of mixed diagnosis go undetected, he said. He likens the issue of misdiagnosis to an iceberg, saying cases leading to death and disability are but a small fraction of the problem. We focused here on the serious harms, but the number of diagnostic errors that happens out there in the US each year is probably somewhere on the order of magnitude of 500 to 100 million. Now that we've identified the issue, we need to talk about what a solution looks like. I'd like to introduce the biopsychosocial model as an alternative for the biomedical model, both a concept for understanding health, disease, and illness, and a framework for delivering healthcare. The foundational belief of the biopsychosocial model is that one's biology, psychology, and sociology all have to be considered when delivering healthcare. These three elements have to be addressed together in order for the healthcare delivery to be effective. This is particularly important for those suffering with chronic medical conditions. This will allow for patients to be heard and diagnosed properly. So what can we do and what needs to change? Yes, the biopsychosocial model is a master plan, but I want to focus on you and me and what we can do. It may seem like the issue is too large or too far gone for you to have an impact, but change starts with the individual. But what do? We choose to actively work toward a solution. As individuals, it starts with awareness. You are now aware, and it is your responsibility to choose how you respond, because not making a choice is still a choice. Spread awareness, speak up on behalf of those who have been silenced, and provide resources to others. I am passing the torch to you and calling for your help. We can make a change, but it starts with each one of us choosing to speak up. The more voices there are, the harder it is to be ignored. Be a voice.
I just hope that y'all can help because I think this thing is so big that it's out of control.
I've linked some resources in the description. These resources you can share with your loved ones or anyone who you feel needs it. You can also do your own research. And these are just a baseline to get you started. Here are my sources.